Good morning. We are live on YouTube. It's 10 after 9 Eastern time. We're going to bring in our Facebook groups. That's Atlanta Falcons fans on all Falcons and Scott Kennedy Sports. We've got about 40,000 followers on those. We want to make sure we're hitting those folks too, even though Facebook will only hit about 25 of them. We're going to try and hit them too. Welcome in, everybody. This is the Falcons Podcast. It is Wednesday morning, just after 9 o'clock. We go live on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays on YouTube and Facebook. It is NFL Combine Week. The rumors are flying, Nick, and we actually have it's a little bit harder than just regular speculation this week with Justin Fields as the Combine is going, so we'll get into that. And I figured, you know what, we'll finish today with a mock draft. We'll talk some Terry Fontenot. We'll talk some Ryann Morris. We might hit on a couple free agents. We got a full show for you today. How you doing, Nick?
I'm doing well. Not the best sleep last night. The little guy had a lot to say, but that's okay. We're here. We're ready to talk a little ball and ready to talk Atlanta Falcons. A very fun, more optimistic, more holistic approach and interviews than what I got from the Broncos yesterday, which was quarterbacks.
Well, and I thought you were going to say than we've had with the Atlanta Falcons in past years. With Arthur Smith, the smartest guy in the room, and in a big stage like the NFL Combine, he's usually on better behavior. He got snippy, when the local guys would start asking him questions. And like I said, when he started with that at the beginning of year two, I'm like, this is an easy group, and I'm not being critical of them. D-Led, Josh Kendall, Mike Rothstein, those are. I haven't met Mike. I know the other two. They're good guys. They're good folks. It's an easy crowd. Wait until you really get in front of a hostile media and see how easy it is. We go live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 o'clock on these channels. If you're listening after the fact on Spotify or Apple on Falcons Podcast, then you can come join us live and say hello. But we do that because we like to have the interaction, the questions. What's on your mind? What's coming in? And Victor Atkins was in here nice and early before we had even gotten started. He says, "Good morning, Scott. I was reading 2 articles about this Justin Fields. But this morning, they both said from an insider that apparently Atlanta approached the Bears about a trade." So this started, let me share the screen here with you. And actually, I went down into the comments. So I have to scroll back up because there was a mock draft in there from the Bears' point of view. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. Let's discuss this as if it's actually happening and then do a mock draft. This is where this is from, Victor. This is what started everything. Was Bears talk via Josh Schrock of NBC Bears. So, local flavor, NBC Bears. The Falcons are emerging as the number 1 trade option for Justin Fields and have contacted the Bears about him, a source tells NBC Sports Chicago. So this isn't speculation. That's what we've been doing for a year. What makes sense? Justin Fields makes sense. I am saying without a doubt, this has happened. That's what Josh is saying here. That the Falcons have been on the phone with the Bears and they are the number 1 option for Justin Fields right now. Nick, that's news. I mean, that's different. I mean, it makes sense, but we've been going, these are the things you can do. Kirk Cousins, we could draft, you could Justin Fields, you could do all these different things. This, according to Josh Schrock, has happened. Doesn't mean it's happening, but it has happened. It's in progress, Nick.
Yeah, and I enjoyed Ryann Morris yesterday. Somebody asked a pointed question about Justin Fields, and like, well, he's under contract, so we can't talk about him. But as I said earlier, we have, because of where the roster is at, we have so many options. We can trade up for a quarterback. We can trade down. We can bring in somebody via free agency, or we could trade for a veteran. We're looking at everything. There's options A, but then there's B, C, and D as well. And one thing also, talking about the quarterbacks, I know it's not all about quarterbacks in yesterday's interviews, but of course it's dominating still. And he said that he really likes the infrastructure set in place here. It's a good roster. He appreciates the work that Terry Fontenot's done. And he thinks that, he said, the quote that stood out the most to me was, if Atlanta had better quarterback last season, he probably wouldn't be there right now because it'd still be the same coaching staff.
Well, and what he said, because I've always hedged this as well with the same phrase that he used, if they had better quarterback play.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm not putting it all on Desmond Ridder. I'm not saying, okay, this is all Desmond Ridder's fault. Now, he's kind of persona non grata right now in Flowery Branch. No one seems to be talking about Desmond Ridder. Terry Fontenot was asked specifically about Desmond Ridder, and he's like, yeah, we keep in touch with him. We keep in touch with all our players. Okay, great. But he did say quarterback play. So he's not tossing anybody under the bus other than the whole of it, which that's not a hot take, that Atlanta had bad quarterback play. Now, again, I want Atlanta to bring in heavy competition. If Ridder's still there, so be it. I have a feeling if somebody comes in, Ridder's going to be out. It might be cheap. It's just the personalities in the locker room, former starter, you want a fresh start, coaching staff, new coach. You don't necessarily need the last year's starter still there. Well, this is how we did it before. And, that whatever. That I think that Desmond Ridder would be part of a trade package somewhere for a pick swap or something pretty easy. Here, you send us a 6th and we'll send you a 7th and Ridder and we'll get that done. What's your reaction to this this report, and what do you think? Who do you think the primary contenders, I guess, would be if Atlanta decides that this is what they want to do? Who would be their competition?
Well, I guess the first question is, how much do we put weight into the insider that reported this? I don't know him, but I'm not in the Bears circle, so there's always that. It's that time of year where you see, JPA football on Twitter has an account from some nobody knows. I'm a nobody knows too. That's fair, but somebody that it's a report, but how valid is it? That said, I feel like we could have put this out there, Scott, and it probably would have been true. The Falcons are looking at every single option. Of course, they're on the phone with the Bears now. Being the favorite's a different thing. We'll see how that goes. I wonder how much the Bears are going to try to do right by Fields. I know Ryan Poles mentioned that as well. And if there's options for Fields, does he get a little bit of say if the compensation is close? Does he have that power? I know the Broncos did that with Von Miller when they ended up trading him, but Von Miller was a legend for the team compared to Justin Fields for the Bears. So I think it makes sense that the Falcons would emerge as the favorites. I think we probably will not see that. It'll take after the combine for that to really solidify, though. I think the Falcons are going to do the work on the quarterback draft class because you have a higher probability of hitting with the unknown there than what we've seen with 3 years of data with Fields. And I think you have to make a decision on, can we get one of those guys first? Do we love them that much more that we're going to hold out versus Fields? Because I feel like trading for Fields is a door closing on the first round quarterback discussion this season.
I agree. I do too. That said, the way that Ryan Poles was putting this, because he used the phrase "do right by" Justin Fields 3 times, and he made it sound like he would like to get this done before free agency even opens. Mm-hmm. That's in just a couple of weeks. What I think it's March 13th, maybe, is when it opens up. It would be more fair to Justin Fields to get this done and the teams that we're dealing with to get this done before free agency. So everybody's set going into free agency without having that gray area, I think was his phrase, a gray area, living in the gray. So if this happens, Atlanta Falcons fans, it could happen in the next 2 weeks before free agency starts, before the NFL draft, obviously. And I think that would be a really good, because if you're the Bears, you want to hold on as long as possible. You maximize this value the most, the longer you wait and teams start getting desperate. But as he said 3 times, do right by Justin Fields. When we're talking about doing right by Scott and Nick, it's Michael Ronquillo coming in red hot. I'm going to have to get you a Falcons shirt, Michael. We're going to have to figure something out with that Falcons red that you come in with on a consistent basis. We got a comment, and I sent it to you, Michael, that someone thinks that you're not real, or that I'm you, or something like that, because your generosity is so unbelievable that people don't believe it. Believe it. Michael's the real deal. Real deal. Michael Ronquillo coming in supporting the show. Can't thank you enough, Michael. I know I've seen some folks on Facebook come in and say good things about what you do as well. Again, benefactor for the show, like a sponsor, keeping the lights on, keeping us in content. Hopefully, if you're here, you might enjoy listening to us talk. It's people like Michael Ronquillo that makes it happen. So a big thank you to Michael Ronquillo. Nick.
Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. I mean, what do you even say? Nick's Diaper Fund. They're going through them. It's crazy. It's really unbelievable. And thank you so much for the support on both shows. I mean, not even a Falcons fan, but a fan of us, which is weird to say, but we're fans of Michael Ronquillo even more. So appreciate you.
You help support my bat problem. I might not have to buy a bat for a while. I'm pretty happy with the one I got for Sean. I went, and I'm always looking for sponsors. Louisville Select Power is what I went. He's in the BB Core range now. I know way too much about bats. Shout out to the Bat Bros YouTube channel, who started just reviewing bats, and now they're like 300,000 subscribers or something crazy. They're so much fun. They do a great job. Andrew Masia has a great philosophical question here, and I love it. Coming in with a super chat. He says, in your words, can you explain why quarterback scouting is so subjective? I see conflicting reports while they see all the same film. Nick, you take a stab at this first, and then I'll weigh in as well.
Unless it is concrete data and that data has been standardized, and then you are going to have conflicting reports because you're having people assess based on their eyes and what they see, and sometimes what they feel as well. You ask a Bears fan to look at Drake May, they're going to be prickly because, Mitch Trubisky. So there's always going to be levels of bias and influence in any human's past that's going to influence what they see. And a lot of the stuff is tangible as well. So it's, unless you have like concrete data, that a lot of this stuff is going to be on a scale and variable. And even in the college level, because I threw in the word standardized there, what Bo Nix does, putting up, passing yards in Oregon in that offense is completely different than the passing yards and output that you see from J.J. McCarthy in a pro-style offense in the Big Ten. So there's always going to be some subjectivity in scouting. It's not just quarterback scouting. It's trying to predict the future. And it's also not always – that's the thing about scouting as well. You're trying to take what's going to happen, not what has happened. So it's a projection, and there's always going to be variability, chaos when you're taking what has happened and trying to use that to influence to say what's going to happen in the future.
The variability in this, Andrew, to pile on what Nick is saying, is quarterback relies the most in this game of football for things you cannot measure. Now, the farther you get away from the ball, except with the exception of the running back position, the more it depends on athleticism. Wide receiver, cornerback, edge rusher, the closer you get inside, it has to do with technique, brains, anticipation, all that kind of stuff, including probably the most of all of those positions: inside linebacker, that's usually the captain of your defense, inside linebacker, center, and quarterback. Obviously, quarterback being the most. But those three positions are the most dependent on things you can't measure. I can get a 4-4 inside linebacker, and my 4-8 linebacker is going to be better. That's not true the farther you get away from the ball in most cases. You become completely subjective in this, in stuff you can't measure, and it makes the guesswork. It makes it harder when you're trying to anticipate okay, what's this guy's level of anticipation? Okay, that's a subjective measure. You can see sometimes when they've got it or not, and then you're still dealing with human beings and how they get into this system and how they're going to fit and what's around them and everything. And that's the big argument that people are having with Justin Fields right now. Justin Fields has not been overly successful with the Chicago Bears. Now, the final half of his third year, he did pretty good. I saw a comp with him and Lamar Jackson, and they were close. Too many turnovers still on Justin Fields' side of things. But my question, Andrew, is, for Falcons fans is, and this is my opinion on it, is Justin Fields makes your team better. He absolutely makes your team better. If Justin Fields was playing for the Atlanta Falcons last year, they're probably in the playoffs. Well, you'll never win a Super Bowl with Justin Fields. Well, I can say that about everybody that's ever suited up for the Atlanta Falcons with the Atlanta Falcons, because they've never won a Super Bowl. Yes, your ultimate goal should be on the ultimate prize, but after 60 years, after 3 consecutive 7 and 10 seasons, I'm looking at improvement. How can you get better? Justin Fields makes you better. He can absolutely make you better at a relatively cheap cost. I'm interested. And the upside there is phenomenal. I am interested. But Andrew, the reason why you see conflicting reports, it's because the quarterback position relies the most on stuff you cannot measure. That's why. And it's a dependent position as well. You got J.J. McCarthy playing where he doesn't throw that much. You got an air raid guy like Case Keenum coming out of Houston where he's throwing the ball a bazillion times. In football scouting, stats are the least important compared to other sports. Stats mean the least because it's a team game, Nick.
Yeah, and fortunately, we have started to have kind of a renaissance in football statistic where there are analytics that tend to be a little bit more predictive, but they're much better in the system versus evaluating individuals. So it's hard, and college stats mean even less than NFL stats because it's so different. The level of competition, the difference in like Oregon going up against, I keep using Oregon, but let's say Oregon going up against, I don't know, Cal. Like it's different there, right? It's really hard to compare those two teams, even though they're in the same conference. So not as standardized and makes it hard. So also the other thing is it's the human element too. You mentioned the aspect of, they're dependent and
Nick froze up on me just a little bit. I would assume he would come back here shortly. So I will start scrolling down. Nick, I'm going to remove you here while it's frozen and see if he comes back for us real quick. And then once I get a hi sign from him, I'll add him back to the stream. Want to say hello to some other folks that have come in because the chat is starting to pop here pretty good for us here. String guy coming in. He says, good morning, all of the vet quarterbacks. Who would be the best fit for Atlanta? Fields, Wilson, or Cousins? Wilson is certainly your cheapest option. Assuming he's healthy, I think Kirk Cousins is the best quarterback here for a 3-wide type of system that is going to be a pretty standard package that the Rams have run, that we expect Zach Robinson to run. Kirk Cousins is probably the best option. He's much riskier because he is 36 years old, coming off a very serious injury, and he will be about $40 million. Those are the risks there. He's old, injured, and expensive. Those are scary propositions. That said, I think he's probably the best quarterback, Kirk Cousins here. Wilson becomes a very good option because Russell Wilson becomes a very good option because he is dirt freaking cheap. The Denver Broncos are going to be paying him $39 million this year, no matter what. And any dollar you give to Russell Wilson goes back to the Broncos. He has zero incentive to try and get more money out of the team that he will be playing with next year. So he'll sign for a vet minimum. And he's a good quarterback. He's absolutely, again, going back, well, you'll never win a Super Bowl with Russell Wilson at this stage of his career. Does he help you get better? Do the Atlanta Falcons make the playoffs? Do they win the South? Do they fill the stands? Do they play some exciting football? Those are the steps, the incremental steps I'm looking for right now after watching 5-6 years now, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 6 years of garbage. I'm ready to see I'm ready to be excited about Mercedes again, about the Benz again. I'm ready to be excited about Falcons football again. Fields has the most upside and long-term projection of all of those guys, and he would be cheap as well. And Nick, you've heard me say a bunch, and I'll stick by this. I will stick by this. I don't know if they do it, but I will stick by this. If you trade for Fields, you do not pick up his 5th-year option. You make him play for a contract, and if he doubles his money in a contract year and you have to pay him $40 million, so be it. That means you made the playoffs.
It could also be that he comes in and you give him a 2-year deal immediately or a 3-year deal immediately rather than the 5th-year option. So he's got a lot of upside still, very good athlete. I would be curious about him in a Zach Robinson style offense. There's Sean McVay tree, but they've done a pretty good job of matching what the quarterback to the scheme, or the scheme to the quarterback, excuse me. So we'll see there. As far as those quarterback options, if you are gung-ho on the rookie quarterback, then you probably want Russell Wilson because there's no way in heck he keeps you from taking a rookie quarterback in the draft class. The other two probably do. You're probably punting at the position there to take one of the guys this year. So if you want a rookie quarterback, you're taking him with Wilson because at this point, Wilson is a middle of the pack stopgap bridge style quarterback. He's a bridge.
Russell Bridge Wilson, Nick. John Harrell, great to see you. Speaking of one of our great benefactors, he says, good morning, Scott and Nick and the Falcons family. Good to see you. Red Swarm, good morning, Scott. Cheers. I'll drink to that. Papa Nick and all my friends in the chat. Terry and Raheem seem to be having a lot of fun talking to the media yesterday. I feel pretty good about our team moving forward. I like the staff that's been put together. We like the roster that's been put together. Got to get the quarterback right. And immediately after Raheem was hired, I'm older than him, I think. I can call him Raheem. After Raheem was hired and after Dan Quinn was hired, those happened fairly close together. It was obvious who won the press conference, and I bring up Dan Quinn because, one, he was in this hiring cycle. Two, he's a new coach, and we all know Dan Quinn. That we mentioned right away that Raheem Morris won the press conference, and that's part of being a head coach, is the politics of all of it. That's why we say the mad scientists really like being coordinators. Marley ATL, good morning. Good morning, Scott and Nick. Coffee, I'll drink to that. Let me get a slug of that Puerto Rican blend from Michael Lewitzki, who keeps us caffeinated along with Patrick at lioncoffee.com. Roderick Cook, afternoon, everyone, coming in from across the pond. Corey Johnson, hello. Let me see here as we come down. Joseph Smith, feels like a newer name. Good to see you. We got Andrew Masia. Dave, one of the OGs who's been with us from the beginning, is here as well. Silas Draven, good morning. Good morning. Anthony Evans, good morning, fellas. We got the captain also. We're not going to show your name, captain. You're a little PG-13 rated for our morning show. Pamela Johnson, good to see you, Pamela. Welcome, the ladies of the Falcons podcast. We love it. Breon is here as well. And then Ryan Adonis comes in. Can you imagine getting Fields and then getting Malik Neighbors? That's a possibility, Nick. And like I said, we're going to go through a mock draft. We'll make the trade. Nick and I will come to a conclusion on what it might cost to make that trade. And then we're going to do a mock draft, and you can absolutely get Malik Neighbors. Now, you'd have plenty of free agency money still to go on that defensive side of the ball. Atlanta Falcons fans, if you were to say, okay, I got Justin Fields coming in, I got Malik Neighbors coming in, and I got Danielle Hunter coming in, I got Troy Anderson coming back. Could that get me a little excited for Falcons football come September? That'd do a little for me, Nick.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The question is, can Malik Neighbors get to 8? I feel like I've seen him hardly fall past 6. It's just so many teams need wide receivers picking before the Falcons, and you guys don't necessarily. You need a wide receiver. It doesn't have to be a first-round pick. But I did appreciate Raheem Morris. Somebody asked him about adding another playmaker, and he said, we could add pretty much anything. We're open to everything. We need another guy across from Drake London, Kyle Pitts. Could use another cornerback. We're looking at everything. So even though the Falcons have really heavily invested in the skill positions around the quarterback, you got to let the board dictate it in the end. It's still a value position, and Neighbors and Adunze are really, and of course Marvin Harrison Jr. are really, really, really talented as prospects. So if you walk out with any of them, I would not care that you spent your last 3 picks, first-round picks, on skill position guys too. You just keep chipping away and adding talent. 4 in a row. Yep.
4 picks. Pitts, Robinson, London.
But that was, I was saying, leading up to taking that guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, your offense would be pretty well set. Like I said last year, the kind of phrase I kind of used was the Falcons have built an offense, except for the motor. And they bought a defense. Now, not completely. You got AJ Terrell, you got Grady Jarrett, but they put some money into, they put their free agency money into the defensive side of the ball. Breon Green has a really good question here. What's the cap hit for Fields' first year? Basically, the last year, the 4th year of his rookie deal, then you've got the 5th year option that would come with it if you decided to exercise. That's another thing to keep in mind, Nick. That happens after the draft, though. You could make a trade and then decide to pick up that option. That doesn't happen in the next 2 weeks. But the cap hit, Falcons fans, for Justin Fields in his first year is $1.6 million. $1.6 million. It would be his base salary. The signing bonus, you might have to pick up the roster bonus. I'm not positive on that, depending on when he goes. So at most, it's $3.2 million is his cap hit for 2024. A quarterback, 5th-year option in the first round, jumps to $25.6 million the next year. So it goes from 3 to 26. That's why I'm saying I do not pick up his 5th-year option. I do not Sam Darnold this thing. I've got a quarterback that I'm bringing in that I still have questions about as his long-term future. It's a low cost, high upside possibility, but it's no sure thing. I am not making a $26 million commitment to a guy who hasn't thrown a pass for the Atlanta Falcons yet. If he plays like a top 10 quarterback, he gets $40 million. So be it. I'd rather do that than be committed to $25 million to Sam Darnold.
Yeah, that's a good call. And the other thing about Justin Fields in the 5th-year option is that 5th-year option is going to be 100% guaranteed, including injuries. And Justin Fields has missed a lot of time because of injuries. Now, if you sign him to a new contract, you have a little bit more wiggle room. You're not going to give him that Kirk Cousins 100% guaranteed contract. So there are some moves here, but I don't know how much stock you put into Draft Sharks. They kind of do a injury probability risk, and they have Justin Fields' chance of injuries as very high risk. 89% chance he misses at least 2 quarters next season. Projected to miss 3 games next year. And you just look through the list of injuries in his career to date. Knee MCL grade 2 sprain, knee MCL grade 2 sprain, chest rib sprain, pulled hammy, hand sprain, groin pull, chest fracture, AC joint sprain, hip strain, dislocated thumb. I mean, this is 3 years in the league. There's obviously risk there. That's one reason that like Justin Fields is like, he's going to be here for a good time, maybe not a long time, but that's one reason I probably give him a contract, because as crazy as it sounds, you give yourself more flexibility rather than the 100% injury guaranteed contract.
He might turn that down.
He might.
It would take 2 to tango on that. He's like, either pick up my 5th-year option or pay me the equivalent of, or turn me loose, and I'll be a free agent at the end of the year. Daniel Whetstone coming in. It's a cool last name. Coming in on Facebook with some stars. Thank you for breaking the ice over there on Facebook with the stars. He says, with edge rushers in free agency, who's your guy's preference in the players available? Brian Burns is not available. Josh Allen is not available as far as I'm concerned. Now, they're free agents, but at best, you're talking tag and trade, because the Panthers tag him, the Jaguars tag Allen, and they say, I'm not playing on the tag. Forget it. I'm not coming back. I'm not tagging. Then it's okay. You either sit out of here or you're going to have to trade for him. So it would be 2 first-round picks for those guys. So I'm calling those guys off the table. After that, where do you want to go, Nick?
Daniel Hunter stands out. Obviously, Daniil Hunter. He's a really good option, of course. If you wanted to go, that's kind of second-tier guy. AJ Epinesa makes some sense. I see Dave bring up Bryce Huff from the Jets. He's interesting. And you do expect Allen and Burns to be tagged. Wasn't Burns tagged last year as well? Am I missing?
No, he wasn't. I think that was his option year. I've got spot rack up. Let me look it up. But he was going into the last year of his contract, and they turned down like 2 first-round draft picks for him last year
from the Rams.
So he played 2023 on his 5th-year option, knowing that he had already like turned down an extension. So he played on his 5th-year option last year. So if he's tagged, he'd go from $16 million to about $20 million. And he might say, I'm not playing on that. Okay, that's fine. But you're still going to have to trade 2 first-round draft picks for him, more than likely. Or the Panthers will play hardball and just say, well, then sit your ass out.
Yeah.
That's just the way NFL works. There's not a lot of options for the players.
No. Yeah, they're not. The teams hold the cards. But I think, those guys stand out, of course. We'll see who else is released in the end, too. I mean, we're heading up to that point where there's going to be some free agents available, street free agents, because of contract stuff. So always, when we talk about free agency, half the guys aren't going to be there, and half the guys on the market aren't even listed yet. So still kind of waiting to see who's available there. But Daniil Hunter is probably the one who stands out. Again, talking about injury risk, it's there for him. But assuming Allen and Josh Allen and Brian Burns are tagged and back, which probably should be, those are the guys who stand out to me.
And then I'd keep an eye on Jonathan Greenard, Houston Texans, as someone that would be a 15 to 17 million a year guy. I think he'll play at 26 next year. That's another one to keep an eye on. But right now, probably in this window of win now, Danielle Hunter is kind of where I want to go. If you want to have an instant impact, again, I'm not talking Super Bowl right now. I'm talking let's get this team to 10-7 in the playoffs where they can actually make some noise. Past couple of years, they could have eked into the playoffs, by not blowing some games that they, Carolina Panthers, by not blowing a couple of games. They weren't good enough. They weren't really contenders. That was a product of them being in the NFC South, not a product of them being any good. This could be a good team. This can be a good team that can go in and beat the Philadelphia Eagles like Tampa Bay did, that can beat the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs. I mean, who doesn't? That can. I'm kidding, but could be a contender to move on to the NFC Championship game, to have a season like the Detroit Lions did.
I mean, the NFC, let's be real, Scott. The NFC is open. The NFC is wide freaking open. I mean, the 49ers have the best odds, but there are no Godzilla monsters at quarterback in the NFC. I guess you can maybe say Dak Prescott, but I mean, he's not that tier. He's probably tier 3 for me, and that's really good. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, Hurts took a step
It's a wide
back.
pyramid that goes down when you say tier 3. There's like 10 tiers.
Yeah, I mean, tier 3 is a good franchise quarterback. I would kill for a tier 3 quarterback. You have a chance with a tier 3 quarterback, but yeah, I mean, the Lions, San Francisco stand out, and after that, it's a big bunch of question marks here in the NFC. So the NFC is open, especially in the immediate future. So why not now? I mean, you talked about it. This team could be a lot better. I mean, I know some people prickle a bit at the thought of Kirk Cousins, but we saw him throwing around. If he passes the medicals, you and I haven't. I don't know if I was
Nick, to your point, people are prickling about every quarterback that is available to the Atlanta Falcons. Every single one. Mm-hmm. There's going to be some big naysayers no matter who the Falcons get at quarterback this year. There's going to be a backlash of negativity, but that's who's available. That's who's available right now. And can they make your team better?
Yeah, definitely. Of course. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the Cousins thing too. I mean, I'm not listening to other Falcons people other than you, Scott, so not influenced there. But I mean, I feel like I brought him back. I mean, if somebody wants to comb through the tape, maybe AI can do it and look for me saying Kirk Cousins in the hours and hours and hours of BS audio that I have on here. But I feel like I brought up Cousins as a fit back in like early October. I'm like, can you imagine how good this team would be with Cousins if he's available next season? Because at that point, it's like, Ritter, it's a small sample size, but So Cousins would be awesome in the Falcons. What is the upside there? I don't know. And I see Dave come in also says, is there any truth to Cousins being selfish? Have you heard anything about that? I haven't heard anything about that. From my understanding is he's definitely got like the dad vibe. It's almost like an Eli Manning-esque kind of vibe, but like the guys like him and rally around him and really respect him. And he's different. He's kind of a dork, but he's a good quarterback and they like playing with a good quarterback. So they live with it.
And he's a dozen years older than most of his teammates. It's different. Yeah. It's a different generation. When these guys are going out and doing this, he's going home to the family. Hey, let's go out after the game, fellas. I'm gonna go home. I'm 35 years old and I'm sore and tired. I want to go to bed. One of my favorite quotes I ever heard. Charles Barkley was once asked, about playing. He's about, do you still have the energy to play, the back-to-back nights that the NBA used to do, the 3 games in a row. And he goes, man, I'm 36 years old. I don't even like to have sex 3 nights in a row.
Yeah. And I see comments in the chat about Kirk Cousins being injury prone. And yes, he's coming off the Achilles, which is like, of course, a huge issue. But like, I feel like he's been a freaking Iron Man.
No, I looked at this. Someone said this the other day, and I'm like, You're out of your mind. He hasn't missed a game other than that one since 2014. The only game he sat out was a game where they were already in the playoffs. He sat it out in 2019 when they were 10 he was 10-5, and he sat out that game. Other than that, he hasn't missed a game for injury. He only played 16 out of 16 games in 2021 when they made the playoffs. So that may have been a seeding also, but he's played an average of 16 games for 10 years.
Yeah,
And
I'm
it's
looking
only
at
been a 17-game season for 3. Kirk Cousins is not injury prone. He's been injured, and that's scary because of the age and the type of injury can be detrimental for more than a year. That is scary, but he's not injury prone by any stretch of the imagination.
You remember how much I was reading about Fields' injuries in that Draft Sharks fantasy injury rating? Just forget the number, the chance of injuries. I don't know about the formula they're using to come up with that, but the injury history, the Achilles injury that caused him to miss games, the last time he missed games because of an injury, he missed 1 game in college at Michigan State because of a grade 1 sprained ankle. It's just verifiably and emphatically false to call him injury prone. Now, you want to have questions about the Achilles? Sure. The age? Sure. The contract, the upside? Sure.
Yeah.
But when we're dealing with facts here, and that, there's a lot of gray out here, but when you're dealing with facts out here, that's just not true. So do want to push that one back. He's tough. He's played through dings and bruises. He's not missed time. And if you can get him in here, you might even get him a discount because of the Achilles. I don't know. I feel like with where you're at right now, if you draft a quarterback, even Caleb Williams in this class, you're probably not really entering your go up and get it phase as a team 2.5 years from now, right? Like there's never been a rookie quarterback to win a Super Bowl. I think maybe even only one's ever had the number 1 seed in their conference. I think Ben Roethlisberger in 20 whatever year he came in, they had that. But I think if you bring in a veteran like that, you are in it right now. You can go and do it, but it comes down to the Achilles, and I'm not going to pretend to know what the diagnosis is there and what that looks like. But he's a quarterback who's not dependent on his athleticism. It's a different conversation with Russell Wilson, who cannot work the middle of the field, tries to escape the pocket. Cousins is a positive to the pocket. He has unbelievable pocket feel and is an obvious scheme fit because of what we saw him do with Kevin O'Connell, who the exact same coaching tree as Sean McVay. So, I mean, it makes sense if the Achilles is there. And I get, chat can disagree with me here. I know some of you really disagreed with me last year about Desmond Ridder being questionable or Anthony Richardson being a top 10 pick. We'll see in the end, right? We're trying to project. I'm not going to pretend that I have all the answers because that would make me a big fat phony and a liar. Who knows? But that's more so than I already am. But I think that a lot of this stuff, I just don't understand the total pushback here because he's a really talented quarterback, but it comes down to the medicals in the end. That's a huge caveat. So I don't know. I guess I disagree with some of the chat here.
Yeah, as far as injury prone, now a guy who had a pretty good rookie season for a record is someone that you left out, 2008 Matt Ryan. They were 11-5, and he had probably his second worst quarterback rating for the entire year. So it wasn't Matt Ryan; it was the team around him, and him trying not to screw up. He had they were 11-5. He had 16 touchdowns against 11 interceptions. That was like his second worst ratio in his entire career. But, yes, you can be an 11-5 with a rookie quarterback if you decided to go that way with this team in this division with this schedule. Edward Brown coming in, and he's concerned and excited because, yes, there will be some changes. He says, can't wait to see what the wide receiver room looks like come September. I'm guessing there's going to be a minimum of 2 rookies in it. I kind of hope so. It's a deep draft for rookies, for wide receivers. Deep draft for rookies. There you go, Scott. A deep draft for wide receivers. And I'd love to see a couple of rookies come in. This is Drake's 3rd year. This is Kyle Pitts' 4th year. Bring in one steady pro. Go get a Gabe Davis type. And then get a couple of rookies to come in with some upside. I would love to. I'm here for that.
I'm just ready for you guys to, give a 5th round pick for Jerry Jeudy. How's that sound? Let's get that going. As far as the timing offense goes,
depending on what else happens, if you get Justin Fields,
I don't think he's a fit then.
And his $3 million cap hit, and I get Danielle Hunter and $20 million, I'm still playing with about $30 million in free agency. I could take on Jerry Jeudy's $13 million contract. I could.
Easy.
Do I want to? I think he can be a really good 3rd option on a team where he's not, the spotlight's not on him of the number 1 draft pick. I think he wilts under pressure. As far as I know, you don't want to hear that, Falcons fans, for a guy but having him be part of a bigger core instead of the big spotlight on him could be good for him.
Having a man coverage beater.
I don't particularly want him with the Falcons, though, and certainly not at $13 million.
No, yeah. It's just having a man coverage beater. You don't have anybody like that right now. It's like, oh, pre-snap, this looks like man. My eyes are moving towards Judy on a 1-year
I would
deal.
love a yak guy in the slot.
Yeah, yak.
You know,
Do you want a yak or do you want somebody who's more consistent in getting open and making?
I think that they're the same because the guys that have the ability to get yards after the catch are either physical beasts, which you've already got those guys, or they're super quick. So if they're super quick, they should be able to get separation in the middle of the field. And if they're super quick in the middle of the field, they should be able to get yards after the catch. So I kind of put those two together.
Okay. Sometimes Judy's not physical, and I think I put a little bit more weight on the ability to break tackles and make the first guy miss.
No, and I think I've got separation. I think Jerry Rice, in something like, a quick slant, he's got separation. Now he's in the middle of the field and he's gone. So once you have separation, you've got space to operate and you're quick. Yep. So that's how I consider that. But I
do think he'd be a very good wide receiver 3, though, and totally different than anything the Falcons have right now. And if you're running a more timing-oriented 11 personnel heavy offense, which I'm pretty sure the Rams the last 4 years have been the highest 11 personnel offense in football, that would make sense. And with that kind of viewpoint as well, you're looking for that kind of guy. And I don't think Judy is pure trash, and I also don't think he's a diva. I think I appreciate Rusty's got so much passion. I appreciate you, Rusty. But I think that he's actually a little bit more of a quiet personality, honestly. And the upside for a 5th or 6th round pick, it's just going to be a 5th or 6th. You're talking about nothing there in that type of value. It's really the issue.
The opportunity. What it comes down to, Nick, is the opportunity cost. Yeah. Could that, if I have to pick up the bulk of his $13 million, could that money be spent better elsewhere? My answer is yes, it could.
It depends because of how contracts are structured. The thing about doing that for Judy is it's all right now, where let's say you bring in a Gabe Davis. He's going to cost less year 1 than that, but the guarantees in the long term are going to be bigger. It's going to balloon 3 years from now, and you're going to be in a different situation salary cap wise than you are right now as well. You're going to have AJ Terrell coming up. You're going to have Drake London, Kyle Pitts decisions.
Kyle Pitts is the same, yeah.
So that's
his won't be the same in 2026 though.
Yeah, so I think that's a different conversation. When you talk about bringing in a free agent, it's always like, okay, you're going to be 10% of your cap hit the first year, and then it's going to explode, and you're never going to see the last year of your deal.
No, I'm not thinking that way, Nick. I'm thinking, would I rather draft a rookie wide receiver, 2 rookie wide receivers, and have them Ricky Pearsall and Malachi Corley? Have those guys in their cost controls and cheap, and then I've got the $12 million left over to go get a Bud Dupree type who is a serviceable edge rusher, to go get a big money safety at $6 million, to get my cornerback too. Yeah. So I'm thinking I could probably get 2 starters on defense plus draft my wide receivers for the money it would cost me to get Jerry Jeudy against my salary cap.
It's a money conversation.
That's not where I want to go.
I do think Corley and who was the other name you threw out there? Pearsall. Those guys are both going top 70. So I don't know if that's the difference between that and the 5th round pick, especially this year.
Because Falcons have 4 picks in the top 75. So there you go.
So if you want to use 2
for now, until we do our mock draft, and we're going to give at least one of those away. Lance comes in, he says, with a super chat. Thank you, Lance. It feels like this might be your first super chat. I can't see that you get stickers on YouTube for that, which is kind of cool. He says, too much negativity in the fan base on acquiring Fields. I don't know how fans can't be excited about the potential, even with his issues. Many defended Smith Ritter all year. There are people, I call them defenders of the program, who no matter what will defend what the team does and who the teams are, the players are. They're as delusional as the people are biased about being closed-minded about the possibilities. Now, it lies somewhere in between. What I really can't stand, I see the conversation. There was a good comment on our last chat saying, this is what about Jonnu Smith, which is news also. Jonnu Smith has been waived, freeing up $6.5 million of cap money. He could be re-signed. Being released before free agency starts is a favor to the player. Go out and check and see what you can get. We'll be here, maybe. We'll see. But it doesn't mean his chapter is necessarily over for sure in Atlanta. But the comment was, oh, you're a general manager now. Good thing you know about the players and the money. It's like, dude, we're here for conversations. If you don't want to have the conversation, then go away. Don't bag somebody for having an opinion. That's what we're here for. So just don't bother with what are you, a general manager now? No, we're discussing. That's what we do. It's fun.
Yeah.
And there will be, I've said it before, Lance, on this show, I'll keep saying it. No matter who the Falcons get at quarterback, there's going to be a negativity uprising because there are red flags on every single available quarterback. I'm looking at potential upside, cost of acquisition, and long term. Those are the things I'm looking at. The good news for me, Nick, is pretty much every quarterback that they have that is available to the Falcons will provide better quarterback play than the Falcons had last year.
Yep. Yeah, I definitely agree with you in that. It was disappointing last season. I know that, we can rewind back to July last year and all the quarterback ranking stuff, like, oh, Ritter is ranked the worst quarterback in the NFL. And we kind of like, well, how do you know that? That's not totally fair. Well, in hindsight, he was close to that. So we will, there's a reason that the fans are a little bit, prove it. The show me state, Scott, as you always like to say. It's not just Missouri, it's a state of mind. So I also appreciate, thank you, Lance, for coming in here. As far as negativity with Fields, it's just, there's a reason he's available. And there's been questions and injuries and a lot of negative plays. I think that I'm really appreciating that the analytics community is starting to come forward and make it more mainstream about just how detrimental sacks are and the pressure to sack ratio. And Fields has been one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL the last 3 seasons at negative plays in terms of fumbles, interceptions, and sacks. And those are just absolute drive killers. So he improved with that down the stretch this season. But you add that to the injuries as well, the playing on time. The tools are still there. He's really young. He's also really well liked in that locker room. He's worth a shot, but it's not so much so that it's like the obvious, no doubt decision. There's a discussion to be had. And as you mentioned, positives and negatives for every single path. And we're just going to hope for the best and wait and see. Chris comes in and says, when does the legal tampering period begin?
I hate that phrase, by the way.
I know you do. You complained about it last year. It's 2 days, 48 hours before.
If it's legal, it's not tampering.
Yeah. But it's legal, Scott.
Then it's not tampering.
Just make sure you declare it to the IRS and it's going to be okay. I saw a tweet the other day, IRS, make sure you have to claim your stolen property. Otherwise, you're going to get for tax evasion. So if you stole any cars, make sure that you're reporting it to the IRS. Otherwise, they're coming for you.
Smack my head on that one. It's usually, I think it's the Sunday of the free agency. The contact period for potential free agents begins. I think it's that Sunday. So it's usually 2 days before you're allowed to start signing them. The contact period begins then, Chris.
I did want one comment real quick. I know we want to get to the mock draft first. Barrett Gay coming in $9.99. Thank you so much, Barrett, rocking the Dogs hat there as well. I bet you're excited about the expanded playoffs. Not that Georgia's ever going to miss the playoffs again, but I think, man, they would. The more I think about it, if they'd have gotten in last year, I think they would have steam boat raced everybody. I think Alabama got them in like that 1 out of 10 times, and that was it. So things are really opening up even more so for Georgia. I see Troy coming in saying blah, blah, blah to us. I don't know if it's us or the comment section. So Troy, be nice, be kind. It's okay. But he says, give me Baker and a first-round quarterback to sit for the 3 years, drafted number 1 and a third-round edge, and let's roll.
Why am I sitting a first-round quarterback for 3 years?
I
don't have a back-to-back MVP ahead of him. The idea of doing that is asinine. It really is. Well, look at Jordan Love. Look at Jordan Love. Jordan Love would be even better if he had played for the first 3 years. If you've got a back-to-back MVP at quarterback, fine, but just putting him behind for 3 years, no thanks.
Yeah,
no
I
thanks.
agree with you there.
That's play him. You need a quarterback.
Yeah,
1 year at most. 1 year at most.
Mm-hmm. Unless something crazy happens and the guy you have it's a Kurt Warner situation. It's like, oh man, we got a live one here. But as far as drafting a true number 1, I mean, the odds of drafting a true number 1 pretty much are you have to use a first round pick. So that makes it hard with not as much so as the next one, drafting a third round edge. That's typically a rotational guy in the NFL, especially in this class. So I don't know. But the one thing I wanted to touch here, Troy, I appreciate you coming in over on Facebook, even if we disagree with some of the premises there, is I wonder if we haven't talked enough about Baker Mayfield. The fact that Canales, I probably get in the name wrong. Canales is moved on now from Tampa Bay to Carolina, and the fact that Carolina,
Washington.
No, he's Carolina.
He's the offensive coordinator in Carolina. See the head coach in Carolina.
Yes.
Who went to Washington? Tampa Bay.
Dan Quinn went to Washington.
That's right. It is. Okay. Sorry. Yeah,
So,
you got it right. I'm
yeah,
all
so
confused.
and Tampa Bay is very much up against with a dead cap. Maybe that's a dark horse for Justin Fields. Maybe Baker Mayfield isn't back there in Tampa Bay. Mike Evans, I mean, who knows? So I think actually Mayfield, he worked with Zach Robinson in Los Angeles for a year, 2 years ago, right? So there's options there. I guess I really haven't considered the Baker Mayfield angle because I just assumed he'd be back in Tampa, but with the offensive coordinator gone there and some massive upheaval in Tampa with the dead cap hit stuff. They went for it with Tom Brady and it worked out. But that's one that will interest me. That's a name I didn't consider. So thank you for that, Troy, just mentioning Baker.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Again, there's options. There's going to be negativity no matter who the Falcons get at quarterback this year. Mm-hmm. And I will, as Keith, I'll show this in a little bit. I will guarantee the Falcons get better quarterback play, get better production out of the quarterback position than they did in 2023. Your team gets better this year.
Yep.
Andrew says, how do you compare quarterbacks based on the competition that they face in college? Is it just traits-based eval? Couple of things you try and look at. I want to look at pre-snap reads. How are they processing what they see in front of them, if you can. 2, you try and it is traits, absolutely. Footwork, frame, arm strength, accuracy, all those things you can see. And then you try and get like for like throws. Okay. I'm not interested in the screen, dump off over the middle. There will be throws in there that are going to be similar. And I can go through, if I'm putting $25 million into a first round quarterback, I've got time and a team of underpaid scouts that are going bleary-eyed to put together film of 400 throws, weed out anything under 10 yards and put them and give them on this quarterback, and this quarterback, and give me a 3-minute cut up on each. We can do all those things. So all those things are good. That's why you're a multi-billion-dollar organization like an NFL franchise.
Yeah, and I'm very much, Andrew, good question here. I mean, we could have a whole offseason conversation on this. After myself making a massive miss on Josh Allen and Josh Rosen as quarterbacks, different evaluator now than I was then. It's just so hard to evaluate the processing because of how simplified the reads are and a lot of the answers are for these quarterbacks coming out of college. So I need to trust what I can see, and that is the traits and what is actually there on the film. I don't really care about the stats so much unless, somebody is so wildly inaccurate. Like there are cutoffs, obviously, Scott, just blindly pick a quarterback here. We're taking Joe Milton first overall because of the traits. It goes into it a little bit, but you're talking about the levels there. So I think if you're talking about quarterbacks at the top, I am hunting those Godzilla monsters, the demigod types, where I want the huge athlete with the giant arm from where I sit. And unfortunately, because time and everything and not having to make that decision, so much is going to matter on the leadership, the intelligence, the intangibles, the whiteboard session. Like you'll have it was Nate Tice the other day. He sat down with CJ Stroud before the draft last year, and he was going through some film with him, and he's like, okay, tell me what you see here. And he's like actually talking about the reading the linebackers. Like, oh my God, you're so like the typical answer here would be the safeties, but you're so advanced in your ability to process and see things that you're seeing the safeties, but it's while looking at the linebackers. So you're able to view both levels of the defense while reading the linebackers at the same time. That is advanced stuff that you don't typically see till a guy's much older. You don't get that from just watching the film from where we're at. We don't know what their reads or progressions are or exactly what they're supposed to do. So for me, from where I sit, I'm going to have to trust what I can see, which is the good enough stats, baseline wise, in combination with the arm talent, the size, the athleticism. The rest of it, you can bake it in a little bit. Let's call it what it is, Scott. The intelligence, the leadership stuff, it's hearsay. So you got to trust the coaches and the scouts on that from where we sit.
Yeah, you can see some of that stuff in person. There's coaches don't scout a ton. Even college coaches don't. You see a college coach on the sidelines of a game, they're there to be seen. That's a recruiting trip. But you get them in a camp environment and see how they interact with guys they've never thrown to before and that type of stuff. The more you're around them, you can get a pretty good idea. And Rusty Moore, he's all for Fields and Roma Dunze coming in. You get wide receiver with the first round pick. Could happen, dude. It absolutely could happen. He says Raheem called Desmond trash. Love it. Ryann said, let's face it, if the Falcons had better quarterback play last year, I'm probably not here. He did say play. He did say quarterback play, which is what I've said. I try not to just, shovel on Desmond Ritter's, grave, because it wasn't all on Desmond Ritter last year. There's a reason why the coach was fired too. So Oblivion Empire coming with a super sticker. Thank you for the support, my friend. As always, good to see you in here. And Keith and Ellen Johnson with multiple stars coming in on Facebook. He says, Scott and Nick, please guarantee me at least a playoff spot. I will not guarantee that. I can feel like no matter who, the good thing is, no matter who the Atlanta Falcons get in at quarterback this year, they will have better quarterback play in 2024 than they did in 2023. I feel, and it may end up being Desmond Ritter. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in that, but there's a small one. I think the play is better in 2024 than it was in 2023. That's about the only guarantee I'm willing to throw out there.
Yeah. I expect a solid team this season, and should be it's an up and coming team, and you have a lot to be excited about. And there's still so many avenues to grow as a team as well. You have 4 top 100 picks. You have a top 10 pick. You have cap space. You have young emerging talent. And the reason you're in a position where you can potentially go back to the board at a skill position is because you have such a good foundation on the offensive line. You've done well with your free agency signings. So I think that is, quarterback and defensive line, Scott, probably arguably the 2 most important areas on the field, in my opinion. The next would be offensive line. Those are areas that still need work. So you can chip away there, hopefully a little bit. It's hard to do without first-round picks, without multiple first-round picks, but definitely a way to improve this team, without a doubt. And I think you're in good hands with Raheem Morris. He seems like it's obviously in the honeymoon phase, but you could tell that the media, when they were interviewing him, was eating out of the palm of his hand. They like him. He's good with them. And hopefully everything goes well this season. But you got to figure out that quarterback position.
All right, let's go into a mock draft, assuming the Falcons have made a trade for Justin Fields.
Okay.
What do the Atlanta Falcons give up to get Justin Fields?
I think you give up your second-round pick and a future third.
Okay, I was thinking maybe a second and a pick swap at 8-9.
That's possible too. Especially the Bears.
Keep it 8-9, and we'll go second and a 2025 round third.
I think that's more likely. That's just more like the Sam Darnold one based on precedent. But we could also do a third-round pick, and we could do a third-round pick this year, third-round pick next year, plus the pick swap.
They think that's too rich. 100% chance this is accepted. How about a third? The 74 and a future 2. That's a little rich.
Let's just make it 2 threes. We'll just have fun with it.
2 threes, and we're going to force this trade. So, okay, 74 and a future third rounder. I think it'll cost us, you know what?
Flip the picks.
I'm going to go with a second, a future 5th. There, that's right in the middle. On that one would be accepted. I'm going to go Justin Fields, number 43 overall, and a future 5th for the Atlanta Falcons and Justin Fields. And you know what? We'll throw in Desmond Ritter.
See ya.
We'll throw in Desmond Ritter too, instead of our future 5th. So a second and Desmond Ritter for Justin Fields.
Sounds good.
Okay. Here we go. Start draft. Okay. Coming off the board, Drake May, Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Nate Wiggins, corner, could be a high riser, someone to watch this week. Brock Bowers at 5, Malik Neighbors goes at 6, Joe Alt at 7. There's Rome Odunze right there. Feel okay at tackle. Cooper DeJean, I'm not sure I want to go that high for him. They really like him. And this board has Jaden Daniels way down here. You can basically get Jaden Daniels every time on this draft. I'm not willing to do that. Do you go Rusty, Fields, and Odunze right here? I can get behind that.
I probably would go Odunze, just because I think he is such a smart player. He's got yak, he's got unbelievable hands, he's competitive, he's got multiple years of output. We got a Bears fan in here saying, Desmond Ridder, seriously? Sorry, we were just...
It's just a throw in. You got the second, and we're getting rid of Desmond Ridder. It was the second round pick regardless. I just threw in Desmond Ridder because I think I think Desmond Ridder's probably gone. That's what I think. So I just threw it in there. It's the second round pick is what the important one was.
Yeah, I'm with you. I really love Odunze. We took him on Monday's mock as well, so I don't know if that's a little bit redundant
I don't mind that.
On our end. I don't know if you wanted to work in a potential trade as well here. We already did a trade. I mean, I don't know. We're stretching our legs.
If I could get Dallas, if I could move back 4 more spots, get a second round pick back and get Dallas Turner at 15 for the Colts, I'd do that in a heartbeat. We've already traded enough. Let's leave it here.
Okay, well, I would say the trade back from to there and either taking Arnold, Turner, or Verse, or Murphy, Scott. I think any of those defensive guys stand out for me. I think Murphy's all the way up at 11 now. This is the new board. I think they just released the PFF new updated big board. There's McCarthy way down there.
Bears and the Broncos. I mean, the Broncos and the Falcons swap 12 and 8, and the Broncos come up and get JJ McCarthy.
Give you a future second.
I'd get a future second back. I couldn't get my second back, but I could get a future second back, and I'd probably want a couple of day 3 picks thrown in.
Yeah, that's possible as well. I mean, teams are going to be. You have 2 quarterbacks still available. This is at some point we might need to sit here and like go through the first round and get the picks in ourselves manually. But chaos for sure. The best guy on my board would be Odunze.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Really valuable.
Rusty, Justin Fields, Rome Odunze, Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. And by the way, Terry Fontenot backs Kyle Pitts in a big way. He says he was playing injured last year. He's healthy this year. We're expecting big things from Kyle Pitts. Some GM talk, but doesn't mean he's wrong either. So Kyle Pitts is in a money year, so to speak, and could be looking for a second contract more than his $10 million option.
Interesting here to see Keon Mitchell all the way up here as well over Terry and Arnold. I mean, this is the way this fell. The way if you can get a good deal and somebody wants to come up for a quarterback, I think you do it unless you are absolutely sold on Odunze as the dude. So if we're not doing a trade, I think you take Odunze, but I
took Odunze. There's no buts anymore. It's time to move on.
A slight trade back.
The clock's ticking, man. The clock's ticking.
I just think there's 5 defensive prospects there that if you trade back 6 to 10 spots, one of those guys is still going to be there, and you can give yourself more avenue or more capital.
You got to start talking up quarterbacks. You've got to, but that's the thing. You lose a little bit of leverage, but man, you got to go into the free agency period and say, "Oh, we got to start leaking that we love JJ McCarthy, that we love Bo Nix." You got to start leaking that and get people to start wanting to come up to 8 to get that quarterback. Then I might be able to get a future first rounder to move from 12 to 8.
I mean, heck, you might be on the phone with the Bears there at 8, with them at 9, being like, you know what? How about we give you that second round pick back? We really want Odunze. But because they got to be livid. They want one of the 3 wide receivers there at that next pick, and just not happening.
Quarterbacks are here in the second round still, which would be good news for someone that had a second round pick and needed a quarterback.
Yeah.
Roman Wilson, I mentioned him as another wide receiver, but with Odunze there, I don't know that I need to go Roman Wilson there. I'm really looking. Oh, if I know I need a safety. If I'm sold on Javon Bullard and he's the guy, I need him to be a starter right away. I need him to be what Richie Grant hasn't been. Is he that guy? I could use a top 50 pick on a safety because he's going to be a plug and play starter. If I believe he's that guy, it works for me.
Yeah, let's keep scrolling down. I just kind of want to see what the availability is here. A lot of good day 2 wide receivers. So that's another reason I think the trade back makes a lot of sense there. If you think Odunze is a no doubt number 1, he is worth it without a doubt because, Scott, I truly believe a true number 1 wide receiver is probably the third most valuable position, a third most valuable guy you can build a team around in football. It'd go quarterback, number 1 pass rusher, number 1 wide receiver, because the way the systems are built, it's a first to succeed system versus a first to fail system. So like for defensive backs and offensive lines, the whole is more important than the individual talent. But for edge rusher and wide receiver, I think the individual talent and that guy succeeding means the system succeeds. It's first to fail versus first to succeed. So if you think Odunze is a number one, I think you just take it anyway. But if you don't, if you have any doubts there, trade back, getting the defensive guy there, and then looking at this value of the day 2 wide receivers here is the way to go. So we'll have to explore that at some point here. The guy I'm going to say that we should draft, personally, I think you should take TJ Tampa here. It hurts me to say it wearing my Iowa shirt to take a Iowa State cornerback, but TJ Tampa is really long. He's been a really intelligent cornerback for Iowa State. Good athlete, unbelievable amount of plays on the football. Needs to work on its ability to take away the football, but I think the athleticism, the size profile, the movement skills are all very high. So TJ Tampa for me here, looking for a cornerback, especially when you got Raheem Morris, defensive back coach, Lake coming over, defensive back guy. You have a chance to bring in a good one, and I think TJ Tampa is definitely one that stands out here. It's going to be easier to find a safety later, also compared to cornerback. So I think that
you just spit out why I wasn't thrilled with the Drake London pick at number 8 because of the depth of the class. So you had Drake London at number 8. When you took him first, when there could have been trade down possibilities, Chris and the guys that are ahead of him went 10 and 11, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson with more touchdowns, more yards. George Pickens went 52. That was one of our options there. He's got more yards, more touchdowns. Drake London comes in 4th in yardage at 1771. But then Romeo Dobbs, Jahan Dotson, Christian Watson, those guys all went after Drake London and all have more touchdowns than him with similar amounts of yardage. You just explained to me why I don't know that I want to be the first wide receiver. I know he's not the first, Malik Neighbors was, but I feel like I can get value at wide receiver down the line when I've already got my number 1. I've got Drake London already. So
I think that there's value still to be had there, and you're dealing with a little bit of house money. And at the end of the day, you need to take the best player, right? And I think that matters more than getting too hung up on the position. I don't think there's probably
we traded it away, but it gave us 43. So we didn't have that pick anyway.
You clicked it, you unclicked it.
Oh, I did? Okay, we'll take him off the board then. That was we didn't do that on purpose.
Yeah.
We didn't have a pick there. Forget that whole discussion about 43.
So we are on the board again here with it. So look at they're really
look at these guys in the 3rd. Johnny Wilson is a traits monster. He's 6'6", 240 pounds.
Not for
Jamari Thrash, Brendan Rice, and Malachi Corley are all guys you can drop in the slot and play inside as a number 2-3 option. Brandon Dorlus is a big 300-pound defensive end. There's my safety again.
Now you're talking about safety.
Yeah.
I'm interested in if you keep scrolling down. Also, man, you're really heavy on the wide receivers being available. Yeah, gosh, I was gonna say I know you're not as big of a fan, but I do like. Gosh, you scroll past me. I like Marshawn Kneeland here a lot. Tavondre Sweat, if you're looking for defensive tackle.
They're at 90. Yes, I am. I'll take Tavondre Sweat there.
74.
Absolutely.
74.
I'll take him at 74. You're waiting for... I'll take him in the 3rd and be happy with that.
And there was somebody, if you scrolled up, I was going to say that I would be intrigued with. I don't know if you are as much of a fan. Keep scrolling up. Patrick Paul, just because he's a traits monster.
Patrick Paul a lot.
You do like Patrick Paul?
I like Patrick Paul a lot. He was the one I when I put his video up, I said, this. I'm not quite as sold on him as I was Spencer Brown and then Abraham Lucas in the last couple of drafts, but it's close. I like Patrick Paul a lot. You're going to see my spreadsheet here real quick when I pop this open. Not that one. That's my log. Oh, actually, you're not because it's on here. Patrick Paul was on the national team. Nope. He's on the American team. Houston offensive line. He was 6'7", 333 pounds with an 87-inch reach and was light on his feet. I like Patrick Paul.
I think that there's a conversation to be had there just for long-term thinking of the team. You have
again at 79. I can get Sweat at 79.
Yeah, exactly. I think you might want to wait. So Paul is interesting because you can keep McGarry this season. Then after next year, he has a $14.5 million cap saving with only 2 dead to move on from McGarry. Maybe McGarry's not even a scheme fit for the next guy, the next scheme. You have Jake Matthews, who's getting older, going to be 33 years old this season after 2024, just 2 years left. So I don't know, taking advantage of a deep tackle class. I know it's a little bit, I tend to have a little bit more of a long-term perspective on teams and team building than a lot of fans tend to do. But I think you're taking advantage of a deep tackle class and potentially getting a future starting tackle that late, I think that's good value. And I think, Sweat here makes a lot of sense.
I'm going Sweat with my second, third round pick. He is a pocket collapsing, run stuffing monster. You want your own Vita Vea in there in the third? Yes, please. Yes, please. With a couple of mentors like David Onyemata and Grady Jarrett, I think he goes top 50. I really do. I think Sweat goes somewhere. I'm set the plus minus of 45 to 55, somewhere in there. If he's available here because he comes in at 380 pounds at the combine when he weighs in tomorrow, that's one to watch tomorrow, the weigh-ins with T'Vondre Sweat.
And I see Brennan commenting into here saying that you got to go wide receiver. We took wide receiver the first pick. So that's
we went Rome Odunze first pick, so it's not necessarily a have to.
Yeah.
I'm running out there with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Rome Odunze, and then finding a competent veteran in free agency, or I could still, pick a traits guy here. Cornerback 2, Cam Hart. Since we screwed up, I didn't get a cornerback yet. Good size here. Cornerback 2, I like him. I like Max Melton actually probably a little better.
I like Max Melton a lot. Can you keep scrolling? I'm just curious to see. There's your guy, Tyke Smith. You like him a lot. I know we just took defensive line, but Boyge makes a lot of McKinley Jackson.
Scott, I'm up about 100 spots. I feel like I used to get him in the 7th. Or it's a different board. Maybe that was on the other board.
Well, they just updated the board, Scott. I can tell it's different. And I know that PFF just released their upgraded draft board. So this is different. Scott, this might be a little bit, again, this is big long-term thinking here for me, but what did we talk about with Justin Fields? The big concern.
Injury?
Is that you're talking 4th round now. I would say there's absolutely no downside.
Rattler's still there.
There's absolutely no downside for taking him here. You just traded away your backup quarterback, and Rattler has an NFL caliber arm and is twitchy. I don't see how. I don't think he's going to fall past probably pick 80. So I think that there's so little downside for taking a shot at Rattler here and getting another arrow.
It's good value here. It's absolutely good value. And again, I didn't pick up Justin Fields as 5th-year option. I want him to play for $50 million, not for 25. Again, I use the example, y'all, over and over again of Sam Darnold. You traded a 2nd-round pick for Sam Darnold from the Jets and the Carolina Panthers, and you immediately exercised his 5th-year option. That was a mistake. If it costs you $40 million in year 2 that you have him to pick up his to sign him to a new deal, to franchise tag him or whatever, so be it. So be it. That's a risk that you want. The value here on Spencer Rattler is good.
Yep, that's where I come to. Again, we just took a tackle and we took a quarterback. This is more about long term, but you're talking about late in the draft. So I don't know. I'm not really too worried about it.
Ben Sinnott. I like him too.
Ben Sinnott makes a lot of sense here. I like Theo Johnson a lot. I like Malik Mustafa a lot.
I'd love to get a safety right here.
He stands out to me. There's Dylan Johnson. Haven't seen him on the boards. That's nice.
You're going to address safety either in free agency or in the draft. You have to bring in another safety. You have to. It will happen. We don't have one now. We don't really have another tight end right now. We don't have a backup tight end either. And when I'm talking 5th round, that's not a bad spot to get a backup tight end.
No, I think honestly, I know Ben Sinnott's rated higher here, but I think he's a little less projectable. Theo. I like Theo Johnson's traits. He's big, he's athletic, and I think that the passing game at Penn State kind of held him back a little bit. So I lean him. I think he's got the chance to be a Y tight end. And there's so many of these kind of hybrid mismatch guys, teams really want those Y guys still that can do it and play 11 personnel. So I lean that way.
Jalen Harrell, not bad. Edge. We haven't gotten an edge rusher at all, have we?
You paid one. You brought one in, right?
We brought one in. We signed Daniil Hunter before we went into this draft. Again, I need a safety. If I'm going best prospect available here on their board,
I like Anthony.
Nobody here that really jumps out at me in this range. Jalen Harrell. Tanner's not a bad center option. Johnny Dixon. Jalen Ford, Josh Welch. I'm going there. I'm going to use their board, best prospect available to fit a need, and I'm going to go safety.
Yeah, I like DeJohn Anthony. Solid player, not great against Alabama this year, but yeah, that's okay. So we're still going here. I mean, at this point, Scott, you're talking, what are the positions that you can get value for down this late? You're talking about depth, offensive linemen that can hopefully develop into starters, or even just second string. There's value there. Safeties, special teams guys. In the end, so I'm looking at. I actually, the one that stands out to me here. I know that you're fine at the position, but we're around 6. I really like Ford from Texas at linebacker. You've had injuries there. It's a new team.
At the top, where'd I miss him?
He's You'll see the Texas logo.
I thought I did. There he is, Jalen Ford. Good. We're running late.
He's big. I think plays with a decent instinct. He's physical. There's just not so many. Again, it's kind of like tight end too. Things are getting so small and hybrid at a lot of these spots that like getting somebody who's more prototype makes a lot of sense to me. So
I'm going to go with my last pick, 241. I'm going to get another center because Matt Hennessy is gone. I need you've got, who played last year? Was it Abernathy? Somebody like that? Or I forgot the, the famous now. I don't remember who the backup center was last year, but Andrew Rain's not bad. Layden Robinson. I like Layden Robinson. I'm going to go Layden Robinson to close this thing out. It's an interior offensive lineman. If I'm going to miss, I'm going to miss on a 320-pound guy with good feet.
Yep.
I did screw up. We don't have this pick. I screwed that up. So the Bears, we sent the Bears a number 2, and Desmond Ridder was thrown in. And then after that, you give me a C- on this guy. I promise you he's going higher than 79. Spencer Rattler, that's they like that. Theo Johnson in round 5 is a good player. Need a safety. And then you're just going for plays. And then remember, the trade's not listed on here, but the trade was this pick, the 43, which ended up being cornerback TJ Tampa, for Justin Fields. So this draft was made with the idea that Justin Fields is an Atlanta Falcon. Jason Heller, he's here to close us out on the Super. We've gone long, but we've had a good time, and our numbers are good. So y'all seem to be enjoying the show. Appreciate you being here, but we're going to get on out of here. By the time when we see you again on Friday, we'll have numbers for defensive linemen. We'll have the defensive linemen and linebackers in the books from Thursday's NFL Combine. We'll be back on Friday. Looking forward to talking with you about that. I want to give a shout out to our Super Chat superstars. I'm going to go in reverse order here. Jason closing us out. Keith Robbins, Keith and Ellen Johnson, Oblivion Empire, Rusty Moore. We did this one just for you. We did this draft just for you, Rusty. Andrew Newman, Barrett Gay, Lance Render, Daniel Whetstone coming in a couple times, Edward Brown, Andrew Masha with a great question about scouting, something we love to talk about. And closing us out, Michael Ronquillo, the benefactor of the Falcons podcast. Mike, you're a man, the real deal Ronquillo.
Yeah, the GOAT, man. Just unbelievable with helping us, and we really do appreciate you. Interesting mock, fun to talk about it. Appreciate all the chat coming in as well. You guys have a lot of good takes and opinions as well. I just, if you got a strong take, come at us with the information that you have, right? There's obviously a lot of different opinions and whatnot, and a lot of different paths the Falcons go forward, but we appreciate you coming in and just the passion tuning in as well. So just be respectful, not that you guys weren't, but sometimes maybe it's just the Broncos country stuff going on. But I'm capping on YouTube.
He's the captain. He's the captain R-rated on. So Jordan, good to see you. He stopped over to Facebook. Troy Green, he says, dang, I haven't been paying attention. I'm at work. Don't tell nobody, but who'd y'all get at safety? Went a little bit later than I really want to, Troy. So the way this board played out, basically the safety wasn't necessarily there. And I'm basically saying that it was addressed in free agency. They have to go safety. Richie Grant cannot go into 2024 as an assumed starter. He has not lived up to it. So you've got to go a different direction there. There was one more I wanted to hit on here. Oh, that was it. It was Troy. So we're going to get out of here. Appreciate everybody for being here. Again, special shout out to our Super Chat superstars. We will be back on Broncos for Breakfast tomorrow. We'll probably do a little combine preview, probably talk quarterback some more. Stuff that's going on with Broncos. You can find us at youtube.com/milehighhuddle. We will be back here on Friday morning, and I'm going to do some reactions to the defensive linemen and linebackers, a place that's near and dear to our hearts. And frankly, we've seen Dallas Turner, we've seen Latu come in. Edge is absolutely a possibility with the number 8 pick. We'll see how those guys perform on Thursday night. Thanks so much for being here. We have had a blast going almost 90 minutes. We do it for you. We do it because we enjoy it. We're glad you're here with us. We'll see y'all next time.
Peace.